Travis Tucker from Richmond, Virginia. Um, been using Pinnacle now for, I guess, like 2 or 3 years. And first year we spent a lot of time just kind of validating the data and working with Sean on, how the data warehouse was going to be useful to us. Over the last, I guess, maybe 4 months or so, um, in working with Sean, I've kind of been exposed to Power BI and kind of hit the ground running with that. Our agency, the leadership team, they want dashboards. They're not going to spend their time sitting there pushing buttons and filtering data. They want dashboards that give them information very quickly. And with that said, I wanted to just tell you guys a little bit about my experience with Power BI and kind of why I went down this road. Biggest thing for me is I want to keep the leaders of my company happy, right? I think all of us probably want to do that. They are constantly asking for new reports, whether it's financial data, productivity data, anything that, they think that their supervisors could use or the leadership team itself can use to present to the board and things like that. So one of the big things that I like about Power BI is it offers me the ability to save time. A lot of times a lot of the time before we had the data warehouse, I had to spend a couple hours every week just running various reports manually, shooting them out to the supervisory team, spend time in meetings talking about the different financial reports that we'd run out of Profiler. And the Power BI tool has given me a way to kind of get away from that. I'm not running these reports manually anymore. I'm trying to produce dashboards that I can send out to our leadership team or supervisors that take place of those manually run reports. And not only do they take place of those, they also present the information in a much better way, in my opinion. One of the things that the state of Virginia has kind of jumped into, I'd say, in the last 2 years, and I think they were kind of behind most states in this, is just outcomes and looking at certain trends across the state. One of the things that I think is really cool with the Power BI reports is you're able to, see information very clearly. So things that we've used the Power BI tool for are looking at high utilizers and programs, maybe similarities in their diagnoses. And then one of the things that I use some of the information for is actually training opportunities with our staff, because along with, kind of keeping our EHR system up and running and all the pieces and parts that go along with that, I also manage the folks that train our new hires on using Profiler, and then, they provide additional refresher trainings, is what we call them, for those staff that maybe are missing pieces and parts of the workflow. As I've kind of jumped in and started to develop some of these dashboards, supervisors and some of the folks that, see this new tool, they have a hard time kind of understanding, well, why is this more beneficial to me than the, service report that you've been emailing me for the last 3 years? And honestly, back to saving myself time, it gives them the same information, and they don't have to wait for me to send it to them, right? They can, log into our reporting server and they can pull it up themselves whenever they want to. And I think that that's very nice, just because it keeps me out of the loop, and it also gives them the information they want right away. And I've spent a lot of time, I'd say probably over the last 6 weeks, with our supervisory team. And even though it hasn't been all of them, one of the reports that I've developed, and I will show it here in a few minutes, is our staff summary dashboard. And it's really based on productivity and pieces and parts of information that our staff are required, or our supervisors are required to monitor for the staff. And, I've spent time with our adult mental health team, our intake team, as well as our psych med and medical team on how these reports can be useful and the type of information that they can find here, and relate that back to maybe some of the profiler reports that they're used to seeing. And along with spending time with them, kind of talking about the Power BI tool, I've also used those opportunities to brainstorm about the other needs that they may have. And I've spent some time taking notes, and hopefully at some point when am able to get around to it, I'll be able to provide them with other Power BI tools that they can use. Any questions about what I just talked about? I know that was a lot, but all right. Like I said, over the last, I don't know, 4 months or so, I really dove into Power BI. It took me about 20 hours initially to kind of watch videos and, read up on, I guess, how this could be beneficial to me. So after 20 hours of just kind of trial and practice, it kind of clicked for me. And that's just, I guess, the type of person I am. Once it clicks, it all makes sense and I'm able to run with it. I really like Power BI because, number one, there's a free desktop version out there. I've got a link that I'm willing to share with you guys, and Sean, I think he can pass that along as well. I do think that you have to have some pretty good understanding of the data warehouse and dimensions and values and stuff that are there and how they integrate with your EHR systems or other systems that you might be pulling data out of. But once you have that, I think you can, pretty much make things happen on your own. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo piece here, and hopefully you guys will like what you see. All right, so this is our productivity dashboard, and I'll keep it on our psych med unit. They pretty good examples here about how our supervisors can use this. But what you're seeing here in the bar graph is basically just the different providers, and that's compared to the recorded service units that they've provided in any given month, right? And I like this new feature that they have in the most up-to-date desktop version, where you can kind of carry parameters along throughout the various pages. And I'll show you that in a few seconds when we drill through to the more detailed pages here in a second. And along with the recorded service units, we're comparing that to the unduplicated client count. So it's kind of cool how you can, just see which providers are seeing more people and the amount of time that they're spending with them, right? I've also added this other piece into this report because one of our supervisors actually said, hey, it's cool that I can see what my staff are doing, but what if I just want to see my program as a whole? And can actually drill into that. And there's the program recorded service units as a whole. And I think that that's a nice feature as well. You can just bounce right back to your actual provider detail here. So with Power BI, you can drill through to various pages and more specific detail. I'm going to reference Guys in a Cube. It's a YouTube channel that you guys, I think, can subscribe to. I've just gone out and watched a couple of the videos. And one of the things that one of those guys talk about is really the first page of your dashboard should be kind of the, overarching high level type information. So that's all I'm showing here. I'm just showing basically, of the providers in this program during this month, what are the recorded service units? How many clients did they see? And then how many services did they record? From here, and I'm actually going to pick one of our doctors. I can right click and I can drill through to one of the more detailed pages. So I'll go to delivery method first. And in the delivery method detail page, I can actually see a little bit more information here. How many hours did this doctor put in? And then I'm carrying along some of the same information that was on the initial screen. You can also see in this graph the delivery method attached to the services that this doctor delivered. And I really like how you can kind of hover over the pieces and parts, and it gives you a percentage breakdown. And this is important in our clinical services because we're shooting for a 60% target on actual client time. And that can be both face-to-face and telephone. So it's really nice that the supervisors can just hover over this and kind of quickly see, oh, okay, well, Johnny has provided 60% of face-to-face and telephone time with the client. A lot of our supervisors really, really like that functionality. And I'm going to go back to the productivity page if I want to drill into any other pieces and parts of this report. So again, it's kind of home base here, right? I'm going to always start from the first screen. And then maybe I want to see service status detail. And this was, this was very eye-opening to our psych med unit. The doctors and supervisors, they always talk about, hey, well, how can we increase revenue? And we have a really bad no-show rate, and they always blame it on the no-show rate. However, when I presented this to them, they were able to see, well, maybe it's a way, or maybe it's related to the way we document services, right? We have a whole lot of services here that were sent out for billing with a low complexity, and very few that were here at moderate, and then we have none with, high or any of the other complexities, honestly. In this representation, again, I'm still carrying over the basic information in this card, but I'm also giving the supervisor and team the actual client data here as well. So if they said, well, who are those low complexity clients, right? Who did I provide those services to? They can click on the bar, and it's going to filter this data as well, right? Do the same thing for moderate complexity, and it's going to show that information as well. So again, feel like this is very useful to our medical services and psych med teams, just so that they can kind of get a glimpse at how they're recording their services and maybe ways for improvement and to also increase revenue. And again, like I said, the parameters are carrying over. So all of these services were provided in the month that was set here. So I go just to that final screen for final sign detail. And again, got information carrying over on the card that you guys have seen on some of the other cards there about the provider. And this isn't as relevant to our doctors. I don't think they're really tracking this as much as they do in our clinical programs. However, days from final sign of a progress note, that's a big problem in our mental health case management type services. So one of the reports I mentioned earlier, I've been running the recorded service maintenance report and profiler, sending it out to the supervisors for a couple years now, every Friday. That as well as clinical signatures that are missing. And this report right here is one that's going to save me tons of time, because now staff can log in themselves. They can see those services that need to be followed up on, right? And then they can go in and final sign those notes on their own. It also gives supervisors, I guess, a glimpse kind of at where staff are spending their time as well, right? What types of services are they recording in a given month, and what percentage do those services make up? So are there any questions about this dashboard that I created on productivity?
I haven't. I should have mentioned that if people have questions, you can also type them in the chat bar if you think of them in the middle, and I'll try to read them when they come up. Sorry, I should have mentioned that.
Ginger and Sean also asked that I spend a few minutes just kind of demoing how you can build out a dashboard. Um, and just to save a little bit of time, I went ahead and made all the connections before we got on the call today. Uh, I've already logged in, like I said. I've connected to our client cube. And what I'm going to do is just put together a quick dashboard. So let's bring in this visualization. It's going to turn out pretty neat, I think. Not gonna lie, I did practice this a little bit beforehand. I didn't want to show you guys something that didn't look kind of fancy and cool. So I'm gonna bring in unduplicated client count. One of the things that's kind of neat in my opinion about the way that Power BI works is you can filter at different levels. So for instance, in the report I showed you guys a few minutes ago, I talked about the drill through. And that's drill through so I can carry filters, parameters from page to page, right? I can also put specific report level filters on. So anything that I'm doing here on this page, I can filter it however I want. So I'm going to go ahead and start there because I want both of the visualizations that I show you guys here in just a second be filtered just for a specific team. I'm sure you guys get requests all the time from maybe your state and they say, hey, we need to know demographics on this population that receives mental health case management over, X number of months. Just going to drag that down into the report level filters. And then just going to grab those adult mental health teams. Then I'll just put in race. And I'll make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can see it. But, very easy to identify kind of the breakdown of the clients that we serve by race, right? It's a pretty neat little visualization there. I'm going to make that smaller.
That's pretty fancy, Travis. Very cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat way to look at the information as well. I can look way down here and I can say, oh, okay, well, out of those 3 programs, we only have, 2 clients that have a mixed race of Asian and white. I'm also going to pull in one other report here. And you'll learn quickly that, you'll accidentally still be hovering on one report or on one visualization and then change the type. So I always try to remember to just click off of that. You can create a new one. Again, I'm going to scroll up to the top. I'm going to pull in unduplicated client count, but this time, maybe I just want to look at it by payer. And again, still using that report level filter, just looking at those mental health case management programs.
Oh, wow. That's really fancy.
Yeah, so now I can see, kind of the payer makeup, who in these programs, or what payers serve the clients in these programs, and it's a nice way to look at that, right? SPO seems to be carrying the weight of clients, and one place I really get lost in, I'm not going to lie, I feel like such a geek in saying this, but I'll get over here in this formatting section and just start changing all sorts of stuff here, colors and labels, and just the way that it's kind of displayed. But I have a lot of fun with this, and I was telling Sean at the Harris conference that honestly, Power BI has become kind of one of my favorite parts of my job. So learned a lot in the last 4 months, and hope to continue to use this. I think it's really powerful. It's pretty easy to use, as you guys can see. I mean, it's really just drag and drop, and you're creating these awesome little visualizations that you can share with people around your agency.
Looks great, Travis.
That's absolutely awesome, Travis. I used to do dashboards with a product called Excelsius that worked with Excel to do these kinds of visualizations, and literally to do something like you've done here would have taken me 2 weeks. And so to be able to just do that is just unbelievable in the short amount of time you've got. So that's fantastic. And one of the things, could you go back to your reports folder? I'd like to point something out to folks on that. I think it's one of the best features of SSRS. And if you'll notice the 2 green boxes there, those KPIs, that is, for those, I had a clinical or an executive director one time that I worked for, and he wanted, he had like 5 items that he wanted to look at every day. And this would have been the ideal tool for him. He wouldn't even need to open a report. All he'd have to do is go to this web page, and there that is. So that's a great use of that, of just SSRS KPIs to do that. If you get, if you have people asking for the same number all the time, and you're trying to do it in a report, this is just an excellent way to do it. But the Power BI stuff is just that still just blows me away. Thank you, Travis.
Yeah, no problem. You guys have any questions or thoughts?
Anybody out there have any questions for Travis? Everyone's just too blown away.
I guess that's what it is. I will say, I've got a friend in the state here. They work for another community services board, and although they're not working with Pinnacle at the moment, they also use Power BI. They purchased, I guess, one of the fancier versions, and their agency has also really responded well to what Power BI can do. He uses all sorts of different data sources. He'll pull in Excel sheets, some old Access data that they have, but he definitely had some really cool reports he had set up as well. I don't know if any of you have used subscriptions yet, but that's one of the things that he's done with some of his Power BI reports, where he just has them signed up as, with different staff for subscriptions, and they email out every so often. But, it's nice that you can hook it up to other data sources too. So.
Absolutely. That looks great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Travis.
You're welcome.